In this video, you'll see exactly how much money I made working with a YouTuber with 25 million subscribers, a Twitch streamer with 7 million followers, and two of the biggest sports leagues in the world. I'm also going to be showing you guys the messages, the designs, the negotiations that led up to these paydays between me and these companies. So make sure you stick around until the end to find out exactly how much money I made working for these creators. So let's start with the one and only KSI. Now, as many of you know, KSI has his own boxing company called Misfits Boxing, and if you've been following me on social media, you already know I'm a big combat sports fan, boxing, UFC, I love all that. So when Misfits Boxing announced their biggest fight card ever in 2023, I knew this was my opportunity to team up with KSI and Misfits and create some banger posters for the Prime card event. And I'll reveal exactly how much I got paid for this project, but before that, I'll show you guys how I got hired by these people. So I started with creating fan posters for the fights that were happening on the card. Now, these fan posters are not the posters that I got paid for, but these are what led to me getting hired by Misfits Boxing. So I made this one for the co-main event, Logan Paul versus Dylan Dennis. I put them both in a compound, gave them both swords and lightsabers, and put some Prime bottles at the bottom too. And then I finished it off by putting the headline and the text at the top to give it the movie poster / boxing poster feel. Then I did the same thing with a KSI versus Tommy Fury main event fight. I put them both in an open field, and I gave KSI the look of his favorite anime character, Lord Beerus. And for Tommy Fury, I put him and his family right there, and I gave them a Viking kind of look. I feel like that look was pretty on brand for both KSI and the Furies. After finishing these two posters, I posted them on social media on my Twitter and Instagram, and from there, it instantly started blowing up. People from the boxing industry, celebrities, people in the space started reaching out to me, reposting them. So then I made a tweet addressing KSI's manager directly because I knew he also co-owns Misfits Boxing. So I made a tweet to him asking him to hire me to work for the Prime card. So the next day, my wish came true. He finally saw the tweet and the posters, and he ended up posting one of the posters to his Instagram story as well. From there, he slid into my DMs and said, "I'll be hitting you up for graphics on the regular, speak soon." So from there, his team reached out to me. I filled out a bunch of onboarding forms and stuff like that. Just like that, I was part of Misfits Boxing. So my job was to create these match card graphics showing two fighters facing off, stuff like that. I also designed the pages for a magazine that they worked on that they released on the fight night itself. And then I also did a bunch of YouTube thumbnails and stuff like that. So overall, I ended up doing a bunch of stuff for Misfits. And I think I worked with them for a full week, working on different projects and whatnot. I wasn't paid on a per poster or per graphic I designed on that basis. I was paid more of a flat fee that we negotiated beforehand for the whole week's work. And so now the exciting part, how much was I actually paid to work for KSI and his boxing company? So all in all, the total dollars I received after finishing the job was $2,000. That was for the full week of work, designing match card graphics, working on the magazine, and a couple YouTube thumbnails. And to be honest, I think that was a pretty fair price considering that they also had 2 or 3 more designers working on the exact same thing to help carry the load a little bit because the fight night was approaching fast. We didn't have much time to pump these graphics out. So I think it was a fair compensation for what I did. Now, as far as me receiving that payment and how long it took me to get that, that's a whole different story. I'm not very happy with that process of me having to follow up multiple times to get the payment and them having me fill out different kinds of stuff every time I did that, but that's the story for another day. Your boy got paid at the end of the day, so that's all that matters. And to be honest, with the overall experience and the opportunity, I was pretty satisfied, so it is what it is. The next creator I had the chance to work with is NickMKS. A lot of you may know him from his Fortnite days. He's one of the biggest streamers on Twitch. And when I got the opportunity to work with Nick, I was honestly shocked. It was by far the biggest thing I had worked on at that time, and not just because I was working with NickMKS. I was working with NickMKS and one of the biggest leagues in the world, the UFC. Now, if you know NickMKS, he loves the UFC and has done multiple collaborations with the UFC. But back then, the UFC had never collaborated with any streamer or creator or anything like that. In 2022, the UFC was at its peak. It was going crazy, big fights happening every month. So they wanted to ride the wave and they wanted to get in front of a younger audience. So what better way of doing that than by collaborating with a Twitch streamer who goes live in front of young viewers every day? So the UFC decided to partner up with NickMKS and Tim the Tatman, who were two of the biggest creators on Twitch in 2022 for the first ever MFAM Gauntlet event. Okay, now enough yapping about the UFC. How did I get involved in this project? So I had already worked with NickMKS in the past for multiple projects. This is one of the posters I designed for him and this is another one of them. So his agency was already pretty familiar with me. At that time, I was creating graphics for streamers and YouTubers on the regular, so I was pretty active in the scene back then. So one day, NickMKS manager texts me this message right here. He said, "I've got a big project that I'd love to work with you on." And this was the first time that I was ever made to sign an NDA for a collaboration project I was working on. That just tells you how big of a deal it was at that time. It could not afford to get leaked, so they had me sign an NDA and everything. So after all the forms were filled out and after we negotiated on what the price was going to be, which I'll tell you in a second, this is what I did for that project. So I made one main poster for the whole event, which was NickMKS and Tim the Tatman facing off against each other, and that was supposed to be like the main event fight for that event. And in addition to that, I made 3 other posters for 3 more fights on the undercard, but they were in the exact same format as the main poster, so it's not like I had to make 3 brand new posters. We're just copying the same theme and adding new faces and stuff onto it. And this whole project was so much fun to work on, especially because they gave me almost 100% creative freedom to come up with a concept for the poster, what kind of colors we should use and stuff like that. Of course, they had changes and stuff that they told me to do after I sent them the initial concept, but a lot of times when you work with these kind of big companies, you don't have a lot of creative freedom. You're basically an order taker in some of these situations where they tell you this is what you have to do and this is how much time they give you, and that's it. You're just kind of taking orders and doing your thing. But in this case, the manager knew me pretty well. He knew I could cook up some heat for this, so he trusted me with this, and I'm very thankful for that. I'm pretty happy with it. You know, I couldn't go too crazy with all the details and everything I do normally because, again, it had to be shown on TV, it had to be shown on their official broadcast and stuff like that, so we had to keep it somewhat simple, but I think it still did a pretty good job. Now, getting to the point, how much did I actually make to work on this project? In total, I got paid $2,000 once again to work on this project. I will take it, man. It's not a crazy amount, but it's also not me feeling like I got underpaid. For 4 posters, 3 of which were pretty similar, and just that one main poster, I think $2,000 is more than fair. I know I keep getting paid $2,000 again and again for some reason. It might be my lucky number or something, but it is what it is. I'm not complaining. Okay, moving on. Last, but definitely not the least, this one is one of my favorite leagues out there. I mean, it is my favorite league out there. If you know anything about me, I make basketball art and posters all the time. You know I love basketball, so when the NBA reached out to me for an opportunity to collaborate and work with them, I was honestly stoked, man. I was asked to create a poster for the Abu Dhabi Games 2024 for a match between the Celtics and the Nuggets. So how did I get approached by the NBA to work on this project? Well, so if you didn't know, this past year I was shouted out by the GOAT himself, LeBron James, on his Twitter when he saw my art on Twitter after the Paris Olympics games, and he reposted that on his own Twitter and captioned, "This is too fire." After that tweet, I've been getting multiple offers to work for different companies, and NBA happened to be one of them. I'll also make a full video about that story later on because I feel like that deserves a video in itself. LeBron James reposting my art, so subscribe if you haven't yet to hear that story at a future date. Now, to be fully transparent, I wasn't approached by NBA themselves, but a third-party agency that runs their socials for the Middle East called NBA Arabic. And the creative brief I got for this project was also pretty straightforward. I was given a lot of creative control this time as well, where I got to decide how the final poster is going to look and where people are going to be standing and what elements are going to be visible on the poster. Pretty much only thing I was given was just have 2 players from each team standing next to each other and have this Etihad Stadium in the background. That's where the game is going to be played. So what I chose to have for this poster was I took Nikola Jokic from the Denver Nuggets and I took Jason Tatum from the Boston Celtics, and I had them face off against each other in the middle of this desert. There's some trees in the background, and I had to put the stadium in the back, which was pretty visible as well. I put a reflective basketball court in the bottom where I put the final text of NBA Abu Dhabi game, and that was pretty much it. To be completely transparent, I wasn't given too much time to come up with the idea and finish the project because it was only like a matter of 2 days where I had to come up with the idea, put up a draft that they like, and then finish the draft and send them back. So I think it was a matter of 2 days where I had to finish all those things. So to be honest, in those 2 days, I think I kind of cooked. I'm pretty happy with the end result. Let me know if there's any sports designers out there, how or what you would do differently in this poster to make it look more cool. Now the part that everyone's actually here for, how much was I paid by the NBA to work on that one poster? Now, because it was just one poster, it wasn't some crazy amount. I was paid a humble $350 to work on it. In all honesty, I know it's not a crazy amount like some of you are maybe expecting, like, oh, it's the NBA, you're gonna get paid big money and taking home bands and stuff like that. It's not like that, but still, you know, to be fair, as a designer, I think that's a pretty good amount for working on one poster. Can't complain. I got to work with my favorite league out there, the NBA, and they also said they're open to more collaborations in the future, and they were looking looking forward to doing more stuff like that. Hopefully it can become a recurring thing, but we'll see. If you guys want to pocket watch more and hear more stories, please drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, because I'll be doing a lot more of these in the future. I know I haven't posted as much the whole last year, but 2025 I plan to post a lot more, so please make sure you guys subscribe. And also one more quick shout out, make sure you guys are following me on X/Twitter. That's where I post all of my fan art / posters originally, and that's how I got noticed by a lot of these players and companies. So if you want to see all that unfold in real time, make sure you're following me on Twitter. Besides that, I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you guys for watching.